Clint Eastwood is 94 years old now, and he finally talked about John Wayne. Clint Eastwood was born Clinton Eastwood Jr. on May 31, 1930 in San Francisco, California. Eastwood grew up during the Great Depression. His early life had a lot of money problems, but it also helped him become really tough and independent, which later showed up a lot in his movie characters. His career shows how good he is at many things, going from a rough cowboy on TV to a famous movie director whose films still change how movies are made today. Eastwood spent his young years in the Bay Area and went to different schools, including Oakland Technical High School. His dad worked with steel and his mom was a secretary. Growing up in a working-class family, Clint learned early that hard work matters. He had a tough childhood with lots of moving around because money was tight back then. He loved music early on and learned to play piano and later trumpet. But he also liked sports and being outside, so he had jobs like lifeguard and even went to Seattle University for a bit. Clint Eastwood got his big chance in 1955 with a small part in the TV show Rawhide. That started his climb to fame, but his real breakout came in the 1960s when he played the quiet, super tough guy with no name in Sergio Leone's Dollars trilogy. Those movies were a fistful of dollars in 1964, for a few dollars more in 1965, and The Good, the Bad and the Ugly in 1966. They made Eastwood a huge star. His cool, not always good guy character changed Western movies and made him famous around the world. After the Dollars movies, Eastwood did more than just Westerns. He became the face of spaghetti Westerns, which were mostly made in Italy with lots of action, tough anti-heroes, and a rough, real feel that was very different from the clean American Westerns. His serious, quiet acting went perfectly with the amazing music by Ennio Morricone, making those films classics forever. Eastwood's success in Westerns led him to play Inspector Dirty Harry Callahan in the Dirty Harry series, starting with the 1971 movie Dirty Harry. Harry was a tough, no-nonsense cop, and it became one of Eastwood's most famous roles. The line, "Do you feel lucky, punk?" is one of the best quotes ever in movies, and it really showed Eastwood's tough image. The series had 5 movies total, and people loved Harry so much that it made Eastwood one of the top action stars ever. In the 1970s and 1980s, Eastwood started doing different kinds of roles, not just the strong silent type. He proved he could do drama, action, and even comedy. He was in movies like The Gauntlet in 1977, Escape from Alcatraz in 1979, and Every Which Way But Loose in 1978, where he showed he could be funny too. By the 1990s, Eastwood was not just a star in front of the camera, but also a big name behind it. While his acting was already solid, he wanted to try directing too. His first movie as director was Play Misty for Me in 1971, a thriller about a crazy fan stalking a radio DJ. It did well, and people saw he was good at directing. He made all kinds of films after that, like The Outlaw Josie Wales in 1976, a western that people loved for how it looked at revenge, justice, and making things right. Eastwood's directing got even bigger in the 1990s and 2000s with movies everyone praised. Unforgiven in 1992 was a different kind of western that questioned old ideas about violence and heroes, and it won 4 Oscars, including Best Picture and Best Director for Eastwood. That was a huge moment because people started seeing him as a serious director, not just an actor. His smart stories, great acting, and fresh take on westerns made him one of the best directors ever. Through the 2000s and 2010s, Eastwood kept making and directing movies about hard topics like war, love of country, and giving things up for others. Movies like Mystic River in 2003, $1 Million Baby in 2004, Flags of Our Fathers in 2006, and Gran Torino in 2008 showed he could do different styles but always told deep human stories. $1 Million Baby was a big win, getting Eastwood another Oscar for Best Director and Best Picture. Eastwood's work goes way beyond acting and directing. He changed American movies a lot, inspiring tons of new filmmakers with his simple style, rough real feel, and questions about right and wrong. His movies use little talking, quiet colors, and focus on characters, making him great at telling stories with pictures. His influence is in Hollywood and in regular culture too. His films talk about being a man, taking responsibility, and what violence really does, showing human nature without sugarcoating it. His messed up characters who deal with their pasts connect with people everywhere, so his work never gets old. Outside movies, Eastwood was also into politics and was mayor of Carmel by the Sea, California from 1986 to 1988. He speaks up for personal freedom and smaller government, mixing conservative ideas with respect for people's rights. Clint Eastwood's path from a young guy struggling to act to one of the biggest names in movies is an amazing story of being tough, never giving up, and having vision. For more than 60 years, he kept trying new things, going from tough guy roles to respected director with movies that are now classics. His career has bold moves, total focus on his work, and love for stories that make people think and feel. Even in his 90s, Eastwood keeps going, and his power in movies is still huge. His films get great reviews and fans of all ages love him. What he gave to movies and culture can't be measured, and his mark will stay on entertainment forever. He is a real Hollywood legend whose work changed movie history forever. Clint Eastwood, the famous actor, director, and producer, had two big, public divorces in his life. These divorces changed his personal life and how people saw him, with each one being part of his complicated story. Eastwood's first marriage was to Maggie Johnson, someone he met in the early 1950s before he got famous. They got married in 1953 when Eastwood was just starting in Hollywood. Maggie was from California and worked as a model, and their marriage lasted 31 years. Even though it was long, it had lots of problems and ended in divorce in 1984. People guessed the reasons, but mostly blamed Eastwood's growing fame and his cheating. During their marriage, Eastwood was away a lot for work. That distance plus his reputation for liking other women pulled them apart. They had two kids, a son named Kyle and a daughter named Allison, who grew up with the stress of their dad's rising fame. Even after the split, Eastwood stayed in touch with his kids, and they grew up to do well. But the divorce from Maggie started a new part of his life with more relationships and another marriage. In 1996, after other relationships and affairs, Eastwood got married again, this time to actress Dina Ruiz. Dina was 35 years younger than him, and they married after a short time together. At first people saw it as a happy love story, and they had a daughter named Morgan in 1996. But the second marriage had troubles too, just different ones. By then Eastwood was a big Hollywood name, so the media watched their marriage closely. Over time, rumors said the marriage struggled because of Eastwood's habits, always working, and being emotionally far away. Some people thought the big age gap caused problems too. The marriage lasted 13 years and ended in divorce in 2014. The split was friendly, with both saying they still respected each other. Even after, Eastwood stayed close to his daughter Morgan and was part of her life. Dina built her own career in TV and journalism after the divorce. Ending this marriage was another big moment for Eastwood, his second long marriage to walk away from. Clint Eastwood's divorces are a big part of his personal story, showing his relationships and how he sometimes found love and family hard. His marriages show a guy who, even with fame and success, had trouble balancing home life with being a movie star. These things also showed the sacrifices his family made because of his work and the challenges of being married to someone so famous. Still, Eastwood kept good ties with his kids and stayed important in movies, which shows how tough and determined he is, and how he can grow as a person and in his job. Clint Eastwood is 94 now and has lived a life full of famous roles, classic movies, and a career that shaped Hollywood for decades. He's a true living legend, with a career over 7 decades long, and his effect on acting and directing is huge. But even with all his awards and wins, one thing he stayed pretty quiet about was his thoughts on another Hollywood giant, John Wayne. After years of people wondering, guessing, and being curious, Clint Eastwood finally spoke about it. Eastwood is known for being quiet and only talking when he really wants to, so he almost never shared what he thought about John Wayne. This matters extra because Wayne, called the Duke, was loved in American westerns, the same type Eastwood later ruled. As two huge Western stars, fans and movie people always wondered if they knew each other, were rivals, or crossed paths outside the genre. Eastwood choosing to talk about Wayne now is important because both changed Westerns forever. Clint got famous mostly from The Men with No Name in Sergio Leone's spaghetti westerns like A Fistful of Dollars in 1964, For a Few Dollars More in 1965, and The Good, the Bad and the Ugly in 1966. Those were very different from the classic Hollywood westerns John Wayne did. Wayne's movies showed the heroic, good, bigger-than-life American cowboy, while Eastwood's were darker with characters who weren't clearly good or bad, very different from Wayne's proud, flag-loving style. In old interviews, Eastwood didn't say much about Wayne, maybe because their styles and images were so different. But when he did talk, he usually showed some respect for what Wayne did for movies. Still, people kept asking, what did Eastwood really think of John Wayne and his place in Hollywood? At 94, Eastwood finally opened up and gave his most honest thoughts. In a private talk at an industry event, he thought about John Wayne's famous image that lasted for generations. He said Wayne was super popular as a movie star and had huge influence on westerns. John was a big man in every sense, Eastwood said about his career. He was larger than life in how he played characters, but that's just one side of things. We all have our own ideas of what a cowboy or hero should be. Eastwood made it clear that while Wayne's hero style was famous, it wasn't what he wanted to copy. Wayne's characters were usually about clear right and wrong, good and bad, with not much gray area, and that's okay, but Eastwood said, I've always believed life is way more complicated than that. He explained his own way of acting, with characters who weren't simple, but rough, had flaws, and felt real, facing hard choices that weren't easy. Even with their different styles, Eastwood didn't hide that he admired Wayne's work. He did things his way and was super successful at it, Eastwood said. No one can deny his impact on westerns and American movies overall. I've always liked what he did, even if I didn't agree with all of it. Eastwood also said that even if they didn't share the same ideas about being a man on screen, he respected Wayne's professionalism and how he grabbed everyone's attention. You couldn't ignore the power when he walked into a scene, Eastwood said. He had this presence, this real force, and you can't fake that. Besides Wayne's legacy, Eastwood talked about if they ever met personally, and basically they didn't. Even though they were both big in Hollywood, they never worked together or became close friends. We were in different times in Hollywood, but we had respect for each other, Eastwood said. We didn't hang out, but I think we both knew our spots in the business. This was a big deal because it gave fans and experts a clearer picture of how Clint Eastwood, who made his own style in westerns and more, felt about one of the genre's first big stars. For years people wondered if Eastwood ever felt smaller next to Wayne's huge image, since Wayne influenced so many movie fans. Now in his 90s, Eastwood finally said Wayne had a real effect on the genre and even on his own path, even if their movie ideas were different. As Eastwood keeps directing and producing in his old age, his thoughts on John Wayne show that Hollywood legends, even when different, usually respect each other's work. Their characters were not the same, but both shaped westerns in ways that still affect movies today. In many ways, Clint Eastwood talking about John Wayne shows how the western genre itself changed. It started as simple good versus evil stories and turned into deeper looks at being human. And as Clint Eastwood gets toward the end of his time in movies, it's clear that John Wayne's legacy, along with his own, will keep changing cinema for years ahead.